There's a young man who walked up to me now. Where are you? The young man who walked up to me a few minutes ago. From PTDF, I think. Where are you? Is it PTDF or PTDF? There's a young man that was talking to me about carbon emissions. Are you in the hall? Okay, I think you step down. All right, guys, it's enough with the music. I want to hold my session. I don't want to hold anybody now. It's my session I want to hold, please. Thank you. Cue the music now, thank you. After I will be holding the music. All right, cue the music, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have this presentation from Dangote Petroleum Refinery. They want to give us a status update on where the refinery is at, what is happening with the refinery. Walter Smith spoke to us earlier today as some form of encouragement for the many people who are desirous of getting into the refinery business. I think one of the challenges that we have as a people is, for many people, the unwillingness to trust one another. And I say that to say this. Who recalls yesterday? Was yesterday? No, it was on Monday when we started at the presidential villa. The very first session, you recall, had the CEOs of the IOCs, right? And for many of these events, we bring all of them on the podium and engage them like we did on Monday. Now, one thing just occurred to me while they were doing that. They sat down there as competitors for the many resources that they are exploring in our nation. True or false? True. But you also realize that they are collaborators, right? They co-own the many assets that they are working on. So you find a Shell, Total, ENI, or Chevron joint venture working on a particular asset, and a particular company on behalf of this lot operates the asset. I find a lot of Nigerians who want to get into the refinery business, modular refinery business, and it's taking them a whole lot of time to do that. I have had the privilege of working with a few, sitting down, having like day-to-day meetings with them, strategizing on how to bring this thing, bring it forth. But then I realize if they can adopt the style, the model of the IOCs, okay, put together the resources, put together the competencies and the capacities, and go ahead and execute this project. We have said these things time and time again. For independence, for instance, and I strongly believe that's why the IPPG was founded. IPPG is Independent Petroleum Producers Group, the umbrella body of indigenous E&P companies in the industry. We should have these companies, be you service company, be you E&P company, be you a downstream company. Let's operate the model of the IOCs. Come together, collaborate, create this pool of funds, get into a particular project or asset, develop it, have somebody monitor it or run it, excuse me, as the case might be. Excuse me. Okay. So I think it's really important that we do that. Not everybody has the power, the financial muscle of a Dangote. I emceed an event where Dangote spoke a few years ago, and he was telling us how that banks were chasing him to take facility to do the things that he wants to do. That's a Dangote. Now, many Nigerians want to be Dangote overnight. It's not going to happen. If Dangote is doing 650,000 barrels per day, that is because I remember flying to Atlanta one year, and then I picked up this. I've said this story a couple of times. I picked up this magazine. Which one was that? Was it Wall Street? One of this New York magazines in the aircraft, and it says that was when Dangote announced he was going to do the refinery, and the caption was. It was Nigeria's downstream crisis. If any man can resolve it, he can. Then the subheading was like, Aliko Dangote to build blah, 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 refinery. But the small players, I mean, some of you are in the room, Some of you in the room, there are companies in the room here that have also got the marginal field licenses. I hear some of you have been put together in marriages to help it work. I do not see that marriage as marriage of convenience. I want to pull out of it. Let's bury whatever will make these things not work. Because I keep saying this, I have had the rare privilege. I really want people to come back into the hall a bit more before we start. I hope you don't mind. I've had the rare privilege of interacting with oil and gas captains and regulators and national oil companies from different countries, different climes, especially during this whole COVID lockdown. And I listen to them speak. I hear the things that they say. Yes, there is, and I love the way Austin Olorunshola puts it. He says the transition is not to renewable, it is towards emission reduction. So the energy transition is not heading towards renewable, as it were. And for we're the only ones, Nigerians, we're the only ones with resources. So the earlier indigenous operators, service providers, refinery intending refinery owners realized this. There's a certain woman I had worked with on this modular refinery business. She has the idea, she has the drive, she wants to do it. But what she lacks is credible partnership. Credible partnership. She's bringing into the room people who are not in the space, who are not desirous of the business. So if you bring all those who are in the space, desirous of the business in the refined downstream sector, and all of you come together, lay aside whatever weight that would make it not work and go ahead. In the next 2-3 years, I'm saying it, we'll be very self-sufficient when it comes to refining. Leave Dangote alone. I said this before. When we did a calculation, we considered Ezekiel, we considered 100,000 Ajip was contemplated. I don't know if it's still on. At the time, we considered Walter Smith before it began operations now. Which other refinery did we consider at this time? The couple of them, Niger Delta was also thrown in the mix. The couple of these modular refineries that were being contemplated at the time, and as a function like this, we sat down and we looked at it, and everything was getting to nearly 2 million barrels per day that they would consume. And if that is the case, what is our current output barrel per day? Who wants to help me? What's our current output? Is it up to 2 million now? It's less than 2 million. It's one what? 1.7. So if we have modular refineries in addition to Dangote's that can mop up that 1.7, is there still need for export? Is there still need for export of crude? If we can utilize it at international price, should we export? We should not export. Anyways, what do I know? Maybe I'm just the MC. Okay, so let's continue. Let's take the Dangote presentation now, and let's learn a bit more. So fasten your seatbelts. Let's go on a journey of the most exciting refinery project in all of the world today. We're proud it's in Nigeria. We're excited. It's one of us. It's not owned by a foreign individual or company that will one day just up and leave. It is our own. Dangote Refinery is our own. The earlier we start to see like that, the better for all of us. And doing us the honor of sharing these insights with us, the status of the refinery project is the Group Executive Director of Dangote Petroleum Refinery. I'd like to welcome at this time Devakuma Edwin. Edwin, can you please step forward? Can we make welcome Devakuma Edwin, ladies and gentlemen? You're welcome. Guys, can I have the clicker? I need the clicker.
Sure. Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be with you today. I'm here to make a brief presentation about the progress on the Dangote Petroleum Refinery and Petrochemicals. This is to briefly give you an outline of the business strategy behind the refinery. The first strategy was that we should go for the best of the products, which is Euro 5. As you know, even in Europe, many of the refineries are still trying to upgrade to Euro 5, and some of them are not having a plan to upgrade to Euro 5, but rather phase out the refineries. And because we were going for a huge volume, and we know that we will have to export a substantial quantity of products after meeting the demands of fully Nigeria, as well as the West African countries, we will have still products to export. Especially, we will have gasoline, aviation jet, and diesel. Specifically, aviation jet and diesel. So, if you have to go to those markets, we knew that it's good to have Euro 5 products today, so that in future we would not have any impact on our marketing strategy. So, 100% of the production is of Euro 5. As you know, today we are using mostly AFRI 3 here, and we are trying to upgrade to AFRI 4. Number two, we decided to have total crude flexibility. So the refinery will not be dependent upon products from any one particular source. So we can process most of the African crudes and some of the Arabian crudes, and for example, the US LTO, we can take 100%. So we have designed the refinery with adequate crude flexibility. So there will not be any dependency on any particular specific crude source, because it's a very massive investment, and investment primarily going out, the money going out from the pocket of an individual. So we wanted to ensure that all risks are mitigated. So we actually, before we started the project, we spent a lot of time on assessing every possible risk and how we can mitigate those risks. So that was one of the outcome of that. Number two, so the next point was the design feedstock. We decided to go in with the current pricing trend. You know, in the past, most of the refineries were focused, either the country-specific crude, the Nigerian refineries were focused on the Nigerian crude, or most of the refineries were going in for very heavy, dirty crude because they were available at a very cheap price. So they felt that the refining margins were quite high. But with the global trend of environmental consciousness and better quality products, so people decided the premium between the dirty heavy crude and the normal crude started bridging. Then the US LTO came in. As you know, the Nigeria was US was the biggest customer for Nigerian crude, our light and sweet crude. But then the US LTO came, they almost stopped buying the Nigerian crude. They started pushing those crudes to other countries. Now, especially during President Trump's time, there was a very aggressive push, even to the Indian refineries, they started pushing. So the gap between the light and sweet crude and the dirty crude bridged. So there was no point in going and investing heavily in a dirty and heavy crude oil. So in which case you'll have to have a coke oven, you'll have to have a VDU. So all those things we could avoid, and we built a refinery in line with the current trend. Then we also looked at maximizing gasoline because primarily we are building the refinery here, and the focus was initially the local market. Globally, most of the refineries are focused on diesel, which is the highest consumer product. So because the Nigeria is totally different with a gasoline-centric market, we maximize the gasoline production up to 53% of our production capacity as against the 22% globally. And then we also went for another strategy, maximum value addition. So every barrel of crude which goes in, maximum value should be extracted out. So if you see the black oil, the furnace oil, we used to call it here HPFO, LPFO, the volumes are extremely small. Whereas we have gone for even high-value products like polypropylene. So it has an integrated petrochemical complex. The value of the products extracted, they're all lighter products, petrochemicals. So the value addition is very high. That made the capital expense very high. So there was a lot of investment going in. And it made the complexity of the refinery very high. The Nelson index is quite high. But if you see the value extraction, So it's also extremely high. So over a period of time, the margins the refinery can make is also extremely high. This is the production capacity, just to give you an outline. 57 million liters per day of gasoline, 27 million liters of diesel. So you can see that is why the aviation jet, the current consumption is hardly 1 million liters a day. So we'll have to export a lot. Diesel, we'll have to export a substantial quantity, and kerosene too. And gasoline, I think we can meet 100% of the local demand, and probably we'll still have a surplus to export. And for the refinery, we had to, the capital investment became very high because we had to invest in a lot of supporting investments which are non-specific to a refinery. You can see civil construction equipment alone. We had to buy about 1,233 equipments just for civil construction, which covers dozers, excavators, front-end loaders. Today, we probably have larger quantity of construction equipment compared to large global companies, Saipem, Technip, we have our JGC. We are almost there equal with them, or we have a larger number of equipment. Same thing, mechanical construction equipment. We had to buy about 308 cranes. You can count with your fingers the number of companies globally who have 308 cranes. And stone quarry, we realized that we would not be able to meet our demand of coarse aggregate for concrete production. So we went and invested in a 10 million ton quarry, which happens to be the largest stone quarry in the world. These are all investments which normally a petroleum refinery will not be investing. If you are going and constructing it in Europe or US or India or in Middle East, you would not be investing in all these items. But this made the refinery overall investment quite high. Then to move the sand and also the aggregates, we had to invest in another 1,000 tippers. Ready-mix concrete facility, we had to put up almost 13 million cubic meters of concrete per annum capacity, which is also, which is again supposed to be the highest capacity in the world in any particular location. Even if you go to Middle East, you will not see any area having 13 million cubic meters of concrete capacity, not even in a country in Middle East. And we had to now develop a port because we decided to bring in huge sized equipment. The crude column, 110 meters, came in a single piece. The reactor regenerator, 3,000 tons, came in a single piece. The HRSGs, the heat recovery steam generators, which is also maybe about almost as high as an 8-story building, they all came in single piece. So to bring those in, we had to construct a port. Normally the Nigerian ports, which is globally that is a standard, you have about the load-bearing capacity of a quay is about 2.5 tons per square meter because you will offload containers or some bulk cargoes or packages. So this one needed 10 times that capacity, so we had to build a quay close to the port to bring the material. Then now we have actually extended, we built 2 quays for bringing the over-dimensional cargoes. Now we have added up 2 other quays which can totally 220 meters each with a 14.5 meters draft, which can handle up to Panamax vessels. So we can export the fertilizer from our site and also the petrochemicals. And we are adding up 2 more quays for liquid cargoes too, so which can be, we already have a facility which will come to see it later. But if I have to take it to smaller cargoes to Wari, Port Harcourt, Calabar, so I don't need to use a huge SPM. So we are trying to build 2 more liquid cargo quays. We had to even build oxygen acetylene plants because the welding gases in the country was not adequate. We had to build 50 accommodation to build, have 50,000 construction workmen within the site. People were thinking that, okay, we are overspending on the construction accommodation, temporary housing, because all our air-conditioned treated water facility, then sewage treatment. It's 50,000 houses, you can imagine. It's not a small facility. But it helped us a lot during the COVID period, during the lockdown. Every time the people were all accommodated inside. So it did help us a lot. And in addition, the site was so bad that we had to not only develop, we have the swamp boogies in the country was not adequate. We had to import swamp boogies. And we also realized that we are very close to the ocean. And as you know, with the global warming coming in, Lagos is mentioned. If you just Google it, you'll see Lagos as one of the cities which can potentially start going underwater. So we decided to raise the height of the site by 1.5 meters, the whole area. So we had to pump in more than 60 million cubic meters of sand to elevate the height, which costed us another 300 million euro exclusively just for that one. And finally, above all that, as you know, this is also the number of piling is extremely high, probably one of the highest complex having the highest number of piling. We decided to take up a bigger challenge. We became the EPC contractor. Normally, you know that big companies like Bechtel, Saipem, Technip, JGC, these are the guys who go and do an EPC contract for such major oil and gas projects. Here, everything is in the hands of the Dangote Group. We are doing everything on our own. So this was the single most or the biggest challenge we took in this project. Of course, we had a reason to do it because we know when we go to these big companies, first of all, they charge a huge premium. For this project, they said, okay, 650,000 barrels, they said, okay, the cost capex will be about $30,000 a barrel, so it will cost you about 19.5 billion, and we'll charge you about 10% minimum for a fee. So they said it will be costing us about $2 billion just for the EPC fee. So and then when you sign a contract, you know that all the risks they will mitigate. They will not take 100% of the risk. They will cap their risk maybe to maximum 15-20%. So you pay a fee and still take the risk back on yourself. So we decided, okay, we'll as well take the full risk and do it on ourselves. The same reason we did for the construction equipment. Why did we have to buy? If I'm going to give it to a contractor, they will bring the equipment, I'll have to ship in their equipment, ship it back, and the guys will just depreciate the whole cost of the equipment on one project. Plus, they may be bringing old equipment which can be breaking down and affecting my progress. So we decided to invest on brand new equipment. So there were reasons behind all these decisions, which is actually helpful for the project. And the infrastructure is quite high. I talked about the sand filling, about more than 60 million cubic meters. You can see that within the refinery, we have to do 112 kilometers of concrete roads, 200 kilometers of drains, and they are not small. The roads are about 12 meters wide. Drains are as wide as 2 meters. Some of them, as wide as 18 meters, and some of them as deep as 2 meters. You can see they are like mini canals. Then the steam and power facility. We are building up 435 megawatts of power within the refinery. We have gas turbines, 9 gas turbines, 4 steam turbines, and then the tank farms. We have 177 tanks. Then the product evacuation. We have built total flexibility. 100% of our production can be evacuated by sea. 100% of our production can be evacuated by road. So depending upon the demand, we have total flexibility. Then we have the marine facilities. To bring in the crude, we have 2 crude SPMs. And to export the products, we have 3 product SPMs. And so we had to do about 120 kilometers of subsea pipeline to receive the product from the crude SPM and to take out the product from the product SPMs. And you can see the capacities. We can offload 80,000 barrels per hour. So even if you bring, and also the reason why we had to do 120 kilometers of subsea pipeline is we have put it far away, by about 25 to 30 kilometers inside the sea. So I can bring even a ULCC, though ULCC is going out of fashion, we can bring even a ULCC. And product, normally the biggest vessels handling product is like LR1, the Suezmax vessels. We can bring a Suezmax. And we can load a Suezmax with less than a day. I can offload a ULCC less than a day. So the vessels which are comes in, offloads within a day or loads within a day and leave. So the freight cost will be very, very substantially low because the waiting time is extremely low. And I talked about the 177 tanks. This is the storage capacity. So that we can store up to 11 days of Nigeria's total consumption of gasoline and up to a month, more than a month's requirement of diesel and about 22 days of kerosene requirement. So this will actually act as a kind of a strategic reserve for the country. So we are built in substantial storage capacities. So now we'll come to the critical issue, which people are quite interested. Yes, we are talking about this refinery. Where are we? When are we going to finish the refinery? When the production will start? The journey so far, you can see 100% of the piling work has been completed. 98% of the RCC work has been completed. Tankage, 97% has been completed. Structural steel, same 97% has been completed. The underground piping, almost 100% completed. Now, above ground piping is 80% has been completed. So currently the focus is on above ground piping, followed by electrical and instrumentation. You can see the overall project progress. And if you see the EPC whole portion of it, 95% have been completed. Then if you take the enabling works, the infrastructure, the marine, construction facilities, all of them put together, almost 90% has been completed. But then the critical activity is the construction, because yes, engineering has been done, procurement has been done. The focus currently will be on construction. So if we take the construction alone, we have completed 79% of the construction. And so 21% is left out. So out of the 21%, all of it is not essential for commissioning the refinery. There may be some road works which are not critical for commissioning the refinery. So if you take the remaining functional scope, it is 16.58%. So that is what our focus is upon to finish and start up the refinery today. And we can see again, we have what I had talked about, the breakup is there. And it's the same what I had been describing, but if you come to see the equipment erection, 82%. So we have some balance to finishing. Above ground piping, 80%, which will also balance work left out. The rest of it is more or less finished. And the other areas our focus is electrical, instrumentation, and insulation. So these are the areas where we are currently focusing upon. Also, we are given a target date, electrical instrumentation and insulation. We want to finish it by 30th November of this year. I talked about the same completion progress, you can see. But then the mechanical completion, our target is to finish by the end of this year. And if you want to finish that, we have to also start doing the test packs, like compressed air blowing of the pipelines, then followed by commissioning the boiler and steam blowing of the pipelines, all the hydraulic testing of the pipelines. So that too we have started actually in parallel. You can see the overall test packs. We are estimating to have about 15,400 test packs. And out of that, in the finished product tank form, 128 test packs we have completely finished, including mechanical and hydro testing. Then in the primary blocks, which is the crude distillation unit, the resid fluid catalytic cracking, the motor spirit block, and the mild hydro cracking block, out of the 989 test packs, you can see 931 has been finished in mechanical completion, hydro testing 893 has been completed. Then the CPP, the combined cycle power plant, out of the 1,862 test packs, 1328 has been completed, 1121 hydro testing has been completed. So that gives you an idea of the progress. It's not just mechanical completion, but also the test blocks to be done so that we can switch on the plant. So that is how we are also already doing in the work in parallel. Just I've given you a few pictures. This is how the site was before the development when we started moving in. And this was how the sand filling was done. This is the quay which we have constructed. And this is the area where you have the over-dimensional cargoes. These are the two areas where we can receive. And this is the area where we are constructing the two quays for the export, where we can bring up to Panamax vessels. So all of this are 100% ready. We are trying to put 2 keys here for the liquid cargoes. This is a 3,000-ton piece, which came as a single piece. You can see it arriving in the sea and then getting offloaded and taken to the site. And these are the heat recovery steam generator packages. It's about 8-9-story building. All came in single pieces. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steam HRSGs coming in. The SPMs have been already installed. As I said, the hoses are already linked up, so the vessel can come in and then hook up to the hose and discharge the crude. And we have similar SPMs installed for the product. All the 5 SPMs have been installed already. And all the pipelines, everything has been tested. So actually the SPM is ready to receive the product, crude, or to the other 3 SPMs ready to take out the product. This is a picture of the crude distillation unit. The mild hydrocracking in the front, and then the RFCC, the resid fluid catalytic cracking unit in the back. The water spirit block, the polypropylene unit, the aerial unit of part of the refinery. We have totally almost 19 blocks, so we have just taken pictures of a few of them. And this is the hydrogen generation unit. This is a part of the view of the product tank farm because the area is quite large, so we just took part of it. And these are the pipelines just for evacuation from the tank farm. This is a raw water treatment plant. You can see this is the raw water treatment tanks and the receiving tanks and the raw water treatment plant. And this is the treated water holding tank, which is about 400 million liters capacity. Then at the back, you have the reverse osmosis and the demineralization plant. This is a combined cycle power plant. You can see the stacks of the 8 HRSGs with the gas turbines and then the 4 high pressure boilers. This is an overall aerial view of the picture. So to put it in a nutshell, the refinery was, the concept was brought in knowing that the country is in deficit of the products, so we can always have a ready local market. We also knew that there is a lot of ready market available in the West African countries and to some extent in the Central African countries. Obviously, we cannot compete in the East African countries in terms of freight because the Middle Eastern crude will be coming in. And they also have the advantage of most of them are state-owned refineries, so they have their own crude. So our focus was West Africa, Nigeria, Central Africa. Then the surplus to be exported, we are looking at the South American market and the European market. That was one of the strategies which drove us to go for Euro 5, but then we decided that, okay, when we're going for Euro 5, we'll go for Euro 5 for the 100% of the market products. And so the strategy drove us. We originally were looking at various alternative sites. We originally wanted to go in for Olokola free zone, but then for strategic reasons, we moved to Lagos. The buildings are constructed in Dangote free zone. So we took up a free zone, we registered under N.I.P.S with Dangote, as a Dangote free zone, and it is being constructed in that location. And I told you the challenges, including the challenge we have taken on ourselves of being the EPC contractor. I have given you the construction status. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer. Thank you, sir.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Where are my ushers? I need a microphone for him. He will be answering from where he is now if you have any question for him. But he is taking us through the entire process, where they started, where they are. I'm particularly loving the capacity that the project is building in Nigeria. That for me is, those early slides were for me the most exciting. So any questions for him? Let me just go to the questions before I start. If you don't have any question for him, then, okay, that will be 1, that will be 2, that will be 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 questions, no more questions. Okay, thank you. Where are my ushers? I need him to have one microphone. I need one microphone here for him. Give him one microphone. So I'll take the 3 questions and then you answer when I'm done. So I want 2 other microphones or one rove around. The first person's hand went up there close to you. Let him speak. Please tell us your name, affiliation, and then your question. That mic is not on. Somebody do something about it.
Thank you very much.
All right.
My name is Engineer Amos Oliver. I'm of the Department of Petroleum Resources. I just want to find out, first off, I want to commend the efforts of the Dangote refinery for this very noble project. Now, from what you've said so far, this is the largest single train refinery in the world. And because it's a single train, you had gone through so much in ensuring that enough studies had been done to ensure that there's not going to be a likelihood or whatever form of downtime, because we don't want it to come down. Now, from your experiential knowledge that you probably must have gained in the course of this project, I want you to advise, do you think the model of a single train, if you have a chance to replicate this project, would you still go it as a single train, or you want to modularize it, maybe trying to break it down to maybe double models of maybe 300,000, 350? I just want to know from you, from the experience you've had thus far. Thank you.
Okay, just note that. Just note it. I'm going to come to you. Move forward to Doc in front here before we go to the lady. Come this way. Come this way. It should be on. It should be on.
Thank you, MC. Thank you, Mr. Edwin. Quite good presentation. Also want to commend the bold step by Dangote. Question is, with the narrative coming around energy transition and with the push coming from the developed world, is Dangote threatened? Is the business plan threatened? And 2, if it is there a business model around how to deal with this? For example, you said 53% of your products will be gasoline. What happens if anything, any eventuality? What do you do with this massive investment? Thank you.
So, over here, to the CEO of Dindu here. This way.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Fame at last. Now you can recognize me. Right. My name is Chidima Obi. I am the CEO of Dindu Energy. My question to you, sir, is who are your off-takers when the refineries come on? I have been in discussions, and I'm sure most people in this room have had those side talks that half of the processed materials are going to enter into a vessel and leave the shores of this country. How do we hold you to accountability that all the monies of Nigeria invested in this project is going to be of benefit to Nigerians? Thank you.
Okay, so, Edwin, you can take a go at the 3 questions. If I have time for some more after that, I will let you know.
Okay. The first question was about the single train refinery. Why are we investing in a large train and with associated risks? And I remember when the current GMD of N.I.P.S came for a site visit along with the minister. I was just walking behind him. He was explaining to the minister the same point. He said, this is one big risk in this plant. And I would like to explain this perspective from our own business experience. As you know, we started our manufacturing activity in 1991. Those days we started with textiles, but then in 98 we decided to go in for a totally backward integration of what we were trading and we were going in. At that time, we looked at an overall business strategy, the same question, whether to go for smaller units of multiple units or go for large units. And we built the second largest sugar refinery in the world in 1998 to 2000. At that time, the Tate & Lyle refinery was the largest and we were the second largest. And the same thing we did with flour milling, pasta. The capacities we were building were the largest size units available in the world. What we are looking at it is, one is when we go for a very large size unit, your capex will be low. But the associated risk is anything in the line going down, the whole line can go down. So we have looked at it at the design stage and built in a lot of safeties and protections so that, first of all, for example, this refinery, the turnaround maintenance will be only once in 4 years. We don't need to have a lesser period. Once in 2 years or 3 years is not necessary. So put in enough fat into the plant and enough safeties into the plant so that the plant will not go down on any reason. So, which we have been doing successfully. The same thing we did when we started building our cement plants. In 2003, when we started building our first cement plant, Abuja, the same issue came up. We said, no, we'll go for the largest size plant available in the world at that time. And the same thing we have done with the fertilizer today. It's the largest capacity plant available, each train. And we have been successful in operating all the businesses, whether it's the sugar refinery, whether it's the cement plant. So we have got again the track record that in similar operations, we have been successful. And in between sections too, we have built-in flexibility. So if there is one section is going to have some small issues, but there will be some cushioning somewhere. So we have taken care of all those issues in the designing stage. So based on our past track record and based on our successful experience, that is why we decided to go in for it. And also the primary driver is, of course, the capex is substantially low. And the second question was the long-term sustainability. One is the global trend. And number two, in the same question was asked, okay, if the gasoline we have designed for a high capacity, what if it goes down? And that is what if it goes down. But I can tell you with the start, something has gone down, the aviation jet fuel consumption. So when the original design was coming up, I realized that the aviation diesel production is quite large. Our target market was, of course, Europe. Nobody knew COVID is coming. Nobody knew travel restrictions were coming. But I felt that it's going to be a major risk from that perspective. So we built in flexibility. Today I have a 20% swing between aviation jet and diesel. So when these things came, one of the things we all were, though it is a sad situation with the COVID, we were rejoicing within ourselves was, hey, we are safe. We have this flexibility. Same thing between gasoline and diesel. We have about 18% swing. So depending upon the market and depending upon the profitability itself, not only depending upon the market size, but also looking at the profitability, we have the swing built in. So we can always be flexible. Long-term sustainability, yes, but it's a question, but we all know also that we have been talking about electric cars. But we also know practically how soon these electric cars will be coming in. Most of the countries are even still struggling to have proper electricity, to talk less of electrically operated cars. I can give you one example. When we started our Abuja cement in 2005, I decided that, okay, to save the cost, let us go for CNG-operated trucks. You know, we are one of the largest fleet operators. Globally, we are one of the largest fleet operators. So I converted all the trucks to CNG. But the constraint is I can put it with CNG inside my plant, but it can't take a long trip unless you have CNG stations everywhere. So now the additional headache, I have to build up CNG stations in different locations, take the gas and store it there so the trucks can load. We realize that that's not going to be very easy for us to be operating in that basis. So we decided, okay, my truck will have dual operation, the CNG and diesel. We'll load with CNG. Whenever the CNG runs out, maybe if it is from Obajana to Abuja, it can go and come back. If it is going to Kano, halfway through, it will switch over to diesel. So CNG with the gas availability, because at least I have the gas available in my plants, but still we have these risks. So in most of the countries, the time to change over will be quite a long duration which will be coming in. And so we believe that the risk is there, the risk is coming, but we look at it as it's not in the near future, but a little bit distant future. And we believe that the cost of our investment can all be recovered in the next. We don't look at it as a major risk in the next 40 years for us globally. Yes, Europe and US, the consumptions may be coming down, but there are other countries. And that is one of the reasons also we went for the high quality product. So that we talked about the risk and the long-term sustainability. And the other question which was raised was about the off-takers and also how the funds is going to benefit Nigeria. One is, if you look at our business model, in the past, as I said, we went for all backward integration. We were the largest importers of sugar. We went for sugar. We were importing salt from Senegal. We started putting our salt refinery. We were bringing cement from Sim Togo and Sim Benin. We went for our cement terminals and cement plants. And sugar, we went for the sugar refinery. We are investing in sugar mills. We already have the Savannah sugar mills in Adamawa State, which we are now expanding to 12,000 tons per day capacity with the cane farm. We are putting up another new one in Tunga in Nasarawa State with another 12,000 TCD with a sugar cane farm, with a biomass-based power plant, with the ethanol distillery. So these were all businesses where we were trading in. So we had the downstream, we had the distribution network, we had the customers, we had the warehouses. We were just manufacturing and distributing instead of importing. But petroleum refinery and fertilizer is a totally new business where we have not gone for that. We never had an experience in distributing the product. So one of the primary strategy we decided was, when we go in, let us not try to take in more than what we can chew. We are making a major investment in this manufacturing units. And there are already a complete network of distribution system. There are people who are importing and distributing the products. All we are going to do is offer our product to them. Okay, if you find our product cheaper than what you are importing today, you can buy from us. So we really do not want to get into that system. So, and that also helps the existing players because they have their own tank farms, they have their own tankers to move the products, they have their own filling stations. Why should somebody go in and compete and disturb the existing system and get in too much of, take unnecessary headache? And we also may not be competent in doing that work. So we decided that we will put the refinery, sell it to the importers at a price which will be acceptable to them. So I hope that answers your question about the off-takers. And you also said what's the benefit it's going to bring to Nigeria. First of all, it's going to add a lot to the GDP. And number two, it is going to add, of course, employment. You are going to get the best quality fuel. When we started our cement plants, today actually we are the largest mining company in the whole of Africa in terms of materials we are mining. Not only in Nigeria, we have our cement plants starting from Ethiopia to Senegal, Nigeria to South Africa, across the continent. We mine a lot of quantity. In Nigeria, when we started our mining, all our brand new mining equipment from Liebherr, from Volvo, Komatsu, Caterpillar, all failed. We started looking at it, we realized that the diesel quality which was coming is so poor, the engines were all failing. The same thing we faced earlier with the problem with the imported trucks from US. The injectors were failing. So we had to go and buy centrifuges. We had to put the diesel tank, centrifuge, clean diesel tank, and then only we could take it out. So here you are going to get Euro 5 quality fuel. Whether you are going to use it for your cars or for your equipment or your generator, the life of your equipment is going to last much longer. The frequency of your breakdowns will be lower because of the better quality fuel. And you are assured of continuous availability of fuel. Sometimes we can see fuel scarcities, queues, all that will not be there. So you will have, as I said, the addition to GDP, savings in foreign exchange, adding value to the employment scenario, and better fuel quality and availability. So these are just a few of the benefits you are going to gain, apart from the export revenues the country is going to gain. And you talked about the investment. As it stands today, the investment is all from one single individual, apart from the loans we have taken. So his focus is on this. And coming back to another point, we also talked about the long-term sustainability, how the refinery, being in this core business, how it can get itself established globally, saying, oh, you are in this business of petroleum refining. Your business is not so encouraging to the environment. I can tell you some of the things which you are doing. 10%, up to 10% ethanol blending is allowed. We have put already ethanol tanks. If you take around in the refinery, you will see the ethanol tanks already built in. And the product export SPMs, one of them can handle imports. We can bring in ethanol from outside. Apart from that, as I was talking about the sugar, I said we are building our own ethanol distilleries. In Adamawa State, in Nasarawa State, we are putting up our sugar plants. So locally produced ethanol can come. If they have to bridge the gap, imported ethanol can come. So up to 10% is ethanol, so which is a friendly fuel. Number two, we are massively, because the CO2 emission which is coming in can be only compensated by agriculture or making the economy green. And towards that effect, we are constructing 1 million ton capacity of rice milling, which is coming up in Jigawa, which is coming up in Zamfara, Kano, Sokoto, and Kebbi, and Niger. So when we put these rice mills, we have started working with the farmers. We realized that the farmers were getting an yield of only about 3 tons per hectare of cultivation. We always talk about, when we talk about farming, everybody says, Nigeria oil came and farming went off. We talked about, we used to see the groundnut mounds, the cocoa exports, now cotton exports, everything has gone because people focused on oil. Which farmer went into oil business? Not one farmer has gone into oil business. It all went off because the farmers could not sustain the business. They say the water finds its own level. It flows wherever there is a slope. So if there is money in farming, people will go into farming. There was no money in because the yields were low. So first thing what we did was we brought Brazilian seeds. And the yield went straight away to doubled to 6 tons per. Now we encourage them to go for short-term cropping, especially in the northern part where you can do, because of the rainfall pattern, you can do double season. So their income went 4 times because now they are getting 6 tons plus 6 tons in 2 crops in a year, so it's coming to 12 tons. Then we established our own rice research station in Katsina. There, we have now come up to 10 tons per hectare yield as against the Brazilian seed of 6 tons per hectare. So now, if I commercialize it and give it to the farmers, they'll get 20 tons. Already with 6 tons, the people started looking at it in a comfortable way. So we are working with the farmers. We are giving them seeds from our side. We are giving them fertilizer. We are giving them pesticide. We are assuring to buy back the seed, yes, the paddy. When it comes to selling, because they have taken all the inputs, sometimes the farmers can be hesitant to sell because they already got all of this free. But we have been able to successfully work with the farmers. So now, for 1 million tons of paddy, I'm going to work with the farmers to grow paddy all over the place. So if you're going to grow rice that much value addition is there in terms of mitigating the CO2 emission, because you're making the country green. And as I said, we are going to go for 600,000 tons of sugar production. For 600,000 tons of sugar production, we are going to have a huge hectarage of sugarcane cultivation. So for 600,000 tons, I need 6 million tons of sugarcane. So that is going to be, even if you take 100 tons, it will be more than 60,000 hectares of land will be going in for sugarcane production. So we are focusing on investments which are going to encourage agriculture, which is going to help the country in terms of employment and keeping the people occupied. But anybody coming to talk about a green environment, we say, oh, we are investing in refinery, we'll show them, this is how we are also investing in making the country green, which will more than compensate this investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Edwin. Don't worry, they'll come and take it. Rest your legs. They'll come and take it. Can my usher come get the microphone from Edwin Devakuma, Group Executive Director, Dangote Petroleum Refinery. Thank you so very much. Well, I had thought that we will have enough time to go into some bit of interactions with Q&A for our speakers who are still in the room. I want to thank those speakers who made the effort, the sacrifice to be here to wait for that, but we're pressed and lost for time. Can we give Edwin another round of applause? Thank you, Mr. Devakuma. Congratulations. We're proud of what the Dangote Group is doing with the refinery. I remember what the consultant, what was this man's name, the elderly Yoruba gentleman, he said, we don't want, he said, we don't want subsidies, we won't give subsidies. Let it be competitive pricing. I love where he said it that day, still talking about the refinery in the early days. Okay, so thank you all very much. We've come to the end of today's proceedings in this hall. However, the ExxonMobil sponsored networking drinks reception is right where it was yesterday. That is going to start in another 26 minutes, 5 p.m. And for those who have the invitation to the director of DPR's dinner at Transcorp Hilton, it starts at 7 p.m. See you at that time. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., we're back here discussing the decade of gas. And in the evening, you are entertained, and those who have the energy will win some dollars. I'll see you tomorrow. If you're coming for the dinner, see you later. Bye-bye. Hey, do you want to give me this? The presentation will be made available on the event website. I told you that before, www.nigeriapetroleum.investmentsummit.com, and on the Brevity Anderson app. You already have the app. After the event, you have access to all the presentations there. Thank you. So that's it for tomorrow. I said I was going to announce it, and thank you guys for reminding me this. Ricardo Banks is the artist for tomorrow evening. We'll get entertained by Ricardo Banks, and we'll entertain ourselves as well. See you tomorrow, right? Bye-bye.